The CFPB has said there are nearly 26 million Americans that are credit invisible, meaning about 1 in 10 adults in the US have no credit history with one of the major credit bureaus. There's another 20 million US adults who have credit records that just cannot be scored. So I think I'd like to start by asking you guys, what do you think about artificial intelligence and machine learning? What do those really do to help lenders better underwrite for these customers?
Yeah, I would start with what it's allowing us to do. The way credit's been done for the last, I don't know, 30 years, Douglas, right, is using credit bureaus and the credit bureau data and maybe some other things. I think what artificial intelligence and machine learning is allowing us to do is really to get a much broader perspective on consumers and looking at them in a very different way. So I think the positive of what we're doing is we're going to be able to lend more to people who were invisible in the past, because we're going to have other data that we're looking at that actually maybe tells us even better stories about that customer in terms of how they're going to perform in the long term than just using a bureau attribute, for instance. So I think that's a big transformation for us. I'd add one other point, though. When we deal in the regulatory environment, particularly in credit lending, it's really important that we're very transparent in those models on what behaviors and elements we're using in that model, because we have to really be able to articulate to a customer why they may not get approved. And we have to be very careful to make sure we're fair and transparent as we build these models out so that we don't cause other problems.
We'll definitely unpack that regulatory aspect a little bit more.
So kind of going back to the how the kind of AI changes the ability to get these credit invisibles, kind of the best predictor of the future success is actually past performance, despite the fact that all, brokerage agencies say it's not. Before 1950, if you wanted to get credit, you'd go to a bank and you'd sit across a mahogany desk from a man, and they were always men, wearing blue suits and red ties, like they were issued in bank school or something. I don't know. And when you give it your application, as long as that man knew your kids from baseball or whatever, you'd probably get the loan. And that was fine as long as your kids played baseball. I fenced as a kid. Right? My parents, it wouldn't have helped. And then two gentlemen, one named Fair and one named Isaac, figured out an amazing way, kind of automated underwriting, and it changed the world. So the question is, what's the change? But like all innovations, it has a limit, and that limit is it doesn't deal well with missing data or erroneous data on the core credit bureau attributes that they use. The cool thing about machine learning is that you can use a bunch of data, as Margaret said, which allows you to, if you will, ignore or elide the data that's missing or erroneous. And it's almost as if you're mathematically rebuilding the good part of that dude behind the desk. Hopefully you can do it more broadly, you can do it more fairly, you can achieve transparency in what you did, but you're getting back a little bit of what we gave up in exchange for the power of FICO.